Remembering Kurt Cobain 30 years later. Grab a drink, grab a snack, and let's go back. Before we get into this discussion, we just do want to give a big trigger warning that we will be talking about very sensitive and potentially upsetting things. So please, if this is not something for you, turn it off and come back for our next episode. So today we are going to go way back, given that it is pretty close to, if not already on the date when this airs, to the 30th anniversary of Kurt Cobain's death. 30 years.
30 years. That is crazy.
30 years.
That's
April 8th.
That's crazy. 1994.
I know.
I was like, what year was that? Oh my gosh, 1994.
That was a fast 30 years.
Yeah,
It was
I know.
1994.
That's nuts.
So first, everybody out there, I'm sure knows Nirvana, but to sort of, we'll just give a quick little history on Nirvana, and then we can sort of talk about, because we all remember his death and the impact it had and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I definitely remember, I was a huge Nirvana fan. Still am. And yeah, definitely remember when he passed away there.
So I, although, enjoyed the music and, appreciate the music and the impact that they had, I was not a big Nirvana follower. I don't know a lot of stuff about Nirvana, so this will actually be really helpful for me.
For shame.
I know.
Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, even if you weren't like a big music fan, like you couldn't ignore the impact they had, right?
No,
Yeah.
they
They changed the music landscape like entirely.
Right. But
Yeah.
let's just go way back and sort of deep dive into Nirvana and Kurt Cobain's death 30 years ago.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, yeah,
Ready?
go for it.
Here we go, guys. I got
Still
notes.
swig of my caffeine here. Thanks,
I got
Timmy's.
I
Not
got
sponsored.
Tim
Yeah.
Hortons. Okay. Nirvana was a band formed in Aberdeen, Washington in 1987, founded by lead singer and guitarist Kurt Cobain and bassist is it Chris? Or
Chris Novoselic.
Chris Novoselic. The band went through a succession of drummers, most notably Chad Channing, before recruiting Dave Grohl in 1990. I do know who Dave Grohl is.
Dave Grohl, yeah. He's had quite the career after Nirvana.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's, yeah.
Even without Nirvana, he's got a huge catalog of like, hit songs now, obviously.
Oh, yeah, with the Foo Fighters and all that. Yeah. Like he's done all right.
Yeah.
Nirvana's success popularized alternative rock, and they were often referenced as the figurehead band of Generation X. I didn't know that.
No, I think definitely they seem to, a lot of people thought they encapsulated like the angst and the
They did.
anger and the sorrow of the generation.
The whole counterculture, like, not wanting to be successful, all that stuff. That was like key Gen X ideology, right?
Yeah.
Very true. Despite a short mainstream career spanning only 3 years, their music maintains a popular following and continues to influence modern rock culture. 3 years, eh? For some reason, I felt like, looking back, it was a lot longer than 3 years.
No, I mean, I think definitely they were around more than 3 years,
Of
but
course.
that sort of from Nevermind to his passing, it was not long at
Wow.
all, which is
No.
it's crazy how
It's
much
a
of an
small
impact
window.
they had and how big they became. Like they were a huge band. Like it's pretty crazy.
Nirvana is one of the best-selling bands of all time, having sold more than 75 million records worldwide. In 2004, Rolling Stone named Nirvana among the 100 greatest artists of all time. They were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in their first year of eligibility in 2014.
I'm sure I remember that when they got inducted a couple, I was gonna say a couple years ago, 10 years ago.
Oh my
Good Lord, how
gosh.
fast does time go?
I don't know.
Was Chad there?
Who's Chad?
The first drummer.
Oh, see, I don't know all the drama with the drummers and this and that. I learned a lot by writing and doing some research on this stuff. But
yeah.
Yeah.
It's-
I don't know a whole lot about the Chad situation. I'm assuming it was a Pete Best sort of scenario.
Yeah, I think he was, because he drummed on their first album, Bleach, and then I think they just thought, they wanted to go a different direction. Like, I don't think there's any sort of drama there. I think it was just more of a,
Yeah.
you're just not the drumming you're doing isn't the style we really want. And
yeah.
so, he's kind of like the Pete Best. He was there at the beginning and then
Yeah.
before it really, really took off.
Well, like for anybody out there listening that's like me that doesn't know all the like dirty little secrets or information, here's a quick little synopsis of sort of where they started. During its initial months, the band went through a series of names including Skid Row, Pencap Chew, Bliss, and Ted Ed Fred.
Ted Ed Fred. Good thing they didn't stick with Skid Row. That was
That was taken.
yeah.
The band played under the name Nirvana for the first time on March 19th, 1988 at Community World Theater in Tacoma, Washington. The group settled on Nirvana because, according to Cobain, I wanted a name that was kind of beautiful or nice and pretty instead of a mean, raunchy punk name.
Oh, that's cool. Definitely achieved it with that. It was a good like Nirvana, and it was kind of a when you think of Nirvana, like in terms of like meditation and stuff like that, versus like the kind of punk loud music they were playing. It was,
I literally never. So like when I think of like Kurt Cobain and Nirvana, I always think of I think of more, but Kurt Cobain, he was the guy that always wore those like grungy cardigan sweaters, right?
Yeah, sometimes, he would.
Like
I think he wore that. That was a big thing. I think he wore one on their Unplugged set.
Yes, that's it.
That like kind of like
old man cardigan, but it was like cool because Kurt Cobain wore it.
Yeah.
Well, they definitely, there's, especially given the time, like in the late 80s, early 90s, where like you had like glam, like rock, like
That's
Poison
true.
and stuff like that. Even Guns N' Roses and like these big sort of like stadium bands.
Yeah.
Guns N' Roses kind of Nirvana was sort of the antithesis of all that, right? Just three guys
True.
making noise and just wearing like ripped jeans and t-shirts and
You had
stuff.
greasy hair.
Exactly. A stripped down look, not a lot of production to it.
Yeah, and that was kind of, I think that was kind of one of their big things that, they didn't like that. They didn't like the big rock acts, and these guys were from small town. They like punk music.
I think Kurt actually said like you can't listen to Guns N' Roses and me at the same time.
Yeah.
Like,
unfortunately, I like both. I love Guns N' Roses. I love Nirvana, but they're two totally different bands, two totally different styles of music.
I'm not gonna lie. I always just wanted to be like, have a shower, wash your hair. Look greasy and like
I'm sure he was the thanks, mom.
Yeah, right. He was like, I got other things to worry about.
Yeah, I got bigger fish to fry than worrying about my hair.
So then in September 1990, the band was introduced to drummer Dave Grohl. Grohl auditioned for I can't say that word.
Novoselic.
Novoselic and Cobain and Novoselic later. I can't say that word. Later said, we knew in 2 minutes he was the right drummer.
Yeah, Gabe Grohl's a hell of a drummer. I mean, you listen to Nirvana and stuff. Even like with Queens of the Stone Age and stuff like that. Like, I mean, as soon as you hit those opening notes of like "Smells Like Teen Spirit," he's got that distinct style.
Yeah, that's true. I think I'm saying things like I know, but no, Next. I am such a fish out of water on this topic because I can appreciate music and artists, but I just don't know a lot about
it. Probably
them.
influenced, like Nirvana probably influenced you in ways you don't even realize.
Of course, I'm sure.
Like clothes you bought in high school or whatever.
The grunge look.
The grunge look.
That
like,
whole thing,
The Seattle look that all came out of like that scene, right?
I just gotta say, I'm sorry for the teenage guys in that era because the girls were all about the baggy clothes, oversized clothes. It wasn't a cute look, I'm sure, for the high school boys.
Well, I'm sure the guys got by. I think.
The guys. Yeah, I remember. I definitely had a rocked a flannel shirt for a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Not all the time, but I definitely had one.
I had a flannel shirt. I think everybody did. Now they're back in style. So
I know it's all coming like full circle again. All this stuff's like you see it back in like Old Navy and all like the whatever the kids stores are.
The
like,
cool stores.
Yeah, they're all like '90s themed stuff. It's cool to see. It's funny.
Yeah.
In 1990, the band signed with DGC Records, and after signing, began recording its first major album, Nevermind. Initially, DGC Records was hoping to sell 250,000 copies of Nevermind. However, the first single, Smells Like Teen Spirit, quickly gained momentum, boosted by major airplay of the music video on MTV.
Oh yeah, that song was massive. I definitely remember when that came out and like hearing it for the first time and stuff like that. I mean, like, what the hell is this?
It's funny because I know the song, but I can't think of how the song goes in my head.
Because it was weird. It was a heavy song, like the sound of it, but different than like what was heavy at the time. It wasn't like the same as Metallica or like hard rock acts that were already out there.
No, definitely. Yeah, this is more like a punk. You know, just a couple of chords.
Can you guys sing it a little so I remember?
No.
Oh.
We don't want to do that for everybody. If you don't know what Teen Spirit smells like, and then But I definitely remember. Like I remember being in grade. I don't know if it was grade 7 or grade 8 now, but I remember like that album coming out. And like listening to it. I always remember because it was my buddy's birthday, and my friend bought him Nevermind for his birthday, and I remember my buddy kept buying. What'd you get me for my birthday? He's like, Nevermind. I was like, no, seriously, what'd you get? He's like, Nevermind.
So
I always just remember that thing, and then when he opened it, he's like, "Oh, of course,
it was."
Oh my gosh, she was so sassy at a young age.
Yes, I do, but it's one of those things just kind of it's just one of those things I don't remember. So I just don't remember if that was in grade. It was either grade 7 or grade 8. I don't remember.
Yeah,
but that album was massive, and I was definitely a huge fan.
Yeah.
So as they toured Europe during late 1991, the band found that its shows were dangerously oversold, that television crews were becoming constant presence on stage, and that Smells Like Teen Spirit was almost omnipresent on radio and music television. What does omnipresent mean?
It was everywhere.
Oh.
It's just
Everywhere.
They couldn't escape it. It's
Yeah,
one of those,
it was. I feel like it was.
Well, I think a lot of these bands like have that one song they probably hate playing. And I'm thinking that quickly probably became "Smells Like Teen Spirit" for them, where it's just like
that's actually a funny story. I remember like in high school, a couple of guys went to a Nirvana concert. And they didn't play "Smells Like Teen Spirit." It was a concert in Hamilton, and they were so pissed off. But I'm guessing it's for that very reason. Like, we don't want to play this song.
Yeah,
we know it's our big hit, and we're not that band that just caters to the hits.
That's mean.
But
That's
it's tough too, especially when it's your first album, like your first records.
Yeah.
Like you don't have a whole huge catalog to kind of dig. You get some of these bands like the.
Well, this I mean, at that point in time, In Utero was out, so they had two albums to play
so they
off
had
of.
some more stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Even still, it's
That's the fans. They want.
But a lot
teen
of bands
spirit.
do that. You see like people complain about that, or some people like it's hard because then you play the same song over and over again. It kind of gets old.
But look, I mean, just totally off topic for 5 seconds. It happened to Eric at a concert. One of his favorite bands of all time.
Oh, White Stripes, yeah. Totally different band, but same situation happened. One of my favorite songs was Blue Orchid.
Which is popular.
Which was a popular song at the time. I thought they were going to play it at their concert for sure.
I remember that.
I'm like, the encore came. I'm like, the encore came and went.
He wouldn't leave.
No Blue Orchid. I'm like, they're going to play it. They'll come back.
No, they did not.
No, then they turn the lights up. The roadies are coming out, cleaning up.
They're stripping down the stage and stuff. I'm like, I think it's over.
This is just a bit. They're coming back. I know it.
By Christmas 1991, Nevermind was selling 400,000 copies a week in the U.S. In January 1992, the album displaced Michael Jackson's Dangerous at #1 on the Billboard charts and topped the charts in numerous other countries.
That's pretty
Holy
crazy.
Crap.
Just throwing in Michael Jackson, the king of pop, like that's...
It's pretty symbolic of how the pendulum shifted there, right?
Yeah, it was Michael Jackson... completely different style of music and stuff.
Yeah.
He had to go from that to like,
and he owned like the 80s pretty much, right?
Yeah, like he was massive.
Yeah,
that was like the height of like the Michael Jackson stuff. Yeah,
was Nevermind the album with the baby on the front?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The baby in the pool with going for the dollar. Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember the baby in the pool.
That was just recently. I think he was suing them over it.
That's a whole other story. The album eventually sold over 7 million copies in the United States and over 30 million worldwide. Nirvana's sudden success was credited for popularizing alternative rock and ending the dominance of hair metal. Aww.
Yeah, it was definitely like a shift there because like the late '80s and stuff. Like we were saying, like that was like the Poison, Motley Crue.
Oh yeah,
that kind of era, and then then it became like Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden.
Was Bush in there?
Stone Temple Pilots.
Or Alice in Chains, another one. Like, there's a whole bunch of these massive bands.
Would you say Bush?
I don't know. That's the only other
Is Canada, they were Bush X here?
For a while they were, No, they were like late 90s, weren't they? I remember they were like 96, 97, I think it was. Something like that.
So citing exhaustion, Nirvana did not undertake another American tour in support of Nevermind and made only a handful of performances later that year. So they were like beat down right after their first album.
Well, I imagine like going from, relative obscurity to like...
It's a lot.
Yeah, and fast too, right? And everybody wants something, I think, Like, touring's one thing, but I'm sure there's everything that goes on top of that. Press and all that stuff, and it's...
So here's a little bit of information that I found during research, and although we can talk about it after, but it was a little bit like, oh, okay. In March 1992, Cobain sought to reorganize the group's songwriting royalties at this point, which had been split equally, to better represent that he wrote the majority of the music. Grohl and Novoselic did not object, but when Cobain wanted the agreement to be retroactive to the release of Nevermind, the disagreements came close to breaking up the band. After a week of tension, Cobain received a retroactive share of 75% of the royalties. Bad feelings about the situation remained with the group afterward.
I can see that.
Now look, I am all for, if you're the songwriter, like you obviously would get a little bit more, like totally get that. You deserve what what you write and all that kind of stuff. However, and his bandmates were in agreement. They're like, yeah, cool. Mm. They're going back in
that
time.
Might have been the thing. It's like, like
you shot that's done.
And again, this is the problem, right? You write an album where you are an unknown band. Mm-hmm. It's three of us against the world. We're going to split it all equally and hunky dory, fine. When you're thinking you're going to sell thousands of copies, to go into sell millions, and then that number becomes astronomical.
Yeah, and that kind of shows his true colors in a way too, right? Because his image was like, I'm like an artist. I care about like my craft, not the money.
That's true.
I don't want fame. And like in the background, he's like, I want the money.
That's kind of where I was just like, because what I do know about Nirvana was that the whole thing where people always said like, he said, I don't really want the fame. I just want to sing my music. And I was like, money talk.
Don't be a sellout was one of the things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be curious. Like, I never heard that before, to be honest, other than right now.
Yeah,
so, I've never heard that story before, which is interesting.
Let's call our fact checkers out.
No, I'm curious. Yeah, I'll do some Googling later to see, but I've never heard that before.
I found it interesting that, they were all, according to the source online, they were all like, yeah, that's totally cool. And then he wanted a little bit dig deeper into that. So what did they have to do? Pay him back? Like, how did that work? Like, I want to know.
Yeah.
The people want to know. Did they have to pay him back?
I'm guessing not them. No, it'll be through like
the studio,
the labels and stuff like that too.
Wow.
And that's the thing too. Who knows? Because that's the problem too. Once you start making money, there's also it's not just up to the three of these guys to decide stuff. Right? You've got
they have a lot of people.
There's
lawyers and
managers
side. And all that, and that's where a lot of these guys. Like I think when we get into this more, I think that's where they get burnt out because it's not about the music at the end. It becomes much more than just going on stage to play the guitar. It's like everything else that goes behind the scenes with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after that happened, there was rumors that the band was disbanding due to Cobain's health. The Nirvana headlined the closing night of the 1992 Reading Festival in England, and Cobain programmed the performance lineup. Nirvana's performance at the Reading is often regarded as one of the most memorable of their career.
So I'm going to correct you before anyone murders you. It's Reading.
Huh?
It's a Reading festival.
What did I say?
Reading, which is fine.
That's okay. Steve, fact check me. I don't know. I don't know any of this.
I'm just saying
How did
it now
you know it was Reading?
Because it's like a super famous music festival in the UK.
Real life, folks.
So
no idea.
I'm just saying it now because someone's gonna be like, "It's Reading."
That's okay. Like correct me.
In the comments.
That's right.
Correct me because a lot of these names I've never heard of.
Well, it says Reading, but it's Reading.
True.
Yeah.
A few days later, Nirvana performed at the MTV Video Music Awards. Despite the network's refusal to let the band play the new song "Rape Me," Cobain strummed and sang the first few bars of the song before breaking into Lithium. The band received awards for the Best Alternative Video and Best New Artist categories. Ooh, he was sassy.
Yeah. I wonder if that's...
Don't tell me what to do.
I wonder if that's the MTV Awards where they got into it with Guns N' Roses.
I don't know. I mean, probably.
Oh, they were shooting like Hey Axel and stuff like that? Yeah.
I wonder if that must... I'm guessing that must be it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe we'll get into it later. But yeah, there was a whole thing with those guys that...
I mean, one thing I've learned by doing this research is that this is such the bare minimum of information. Like, there is so much information that we could talk for 5 hours, I'm sure. So,
we can really get into the nitty gritty of stuff. Yeah, this is more, we're definitely doing like a
overview type
high
thing.
level. Yeah.
In 1993, Nirvana released In Utero, which topped the American and British album charts. In Utero went on to sell more than 5 million copies in the United States. That October, Nirvana embarked on its first tour of the United States in 2 years. They took a little break.
Yeah. No, I remember that. It kind of disappeared. Well, they had, and we didn't even mention it, did we? Incesticide. There was an album that came out in between those.
Yeah, there was a lot of information. But
Incesticide was more like covers and stuff like that. But I don't know if they really toured it at all. But there was definitely, that was, after Nevermind was Incesticide, and then In Utero was like their next like
studio
full
album.
Big album.
Yeah, I was just kind of sticking to the...
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Stuff.
That's fine. But yeah, In Utero was huge. That was another one that, like, you could definitely tell because you see, like, obviously the quality of the videos is way different.
Yeah.
Like, they obviously had money, saying they had money to spend now to, produce this thing and make the videos and all that stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't them jumping in like a high school gym anymore.
No. Remember that, like the weird old guy on the cross and like the crows.
I remember.
That was off of Heart Shaped Box.
Yeah.
I
Like it was
remember
quite
that.
the elaborate video.
Yep.
They actually budget now. It's like, oh, you're a hot commodity. We'll spend money on you now.
In November of 1993, Nirvana recorded a performance for the television program MTV Unplugged. Augmented by smear and cellist Laurie Goldston, they broke convention for the show by choosing not to play their best-known songs. Instead, they performed several covers and invited Chris and Kurt Kirkwood of the Meat Puppets to join them for renditions of 3 Meat Puppet songs. Who are the Meat Puppets?
The Meat Puppets are a band. Yeah, you've never heard of them before?
Such a weird name.
But that was, I loved the MTV Unplugged stuff. There were some really good albums that came out of that thing.
Yeah.
But the Nirvana's was by far, Like that thing was huge. That album
Was that where they had the CD of it too? Because I had that CD.
Yeah.
I think like everybody had that CD
I think
back
most
then.
of them they put out. 'Cause I remember, well, the big one I remember, the first one I kind of remember was Eric Clapton's.
Yeah.
Doing Tears in Heaven.
Yeah.
That was kind of the first. I don't know if that was the first Unplugged, but that's definitely the first one I remember.
That was one of the first ones to like really hit big. I think.
Yeah, that was the first one I remember. But like most bands back then, like you can see, there's ones of like Pearl Jam and
Rod Stewart.
Pilots, all these kind of all these
Yeah.
guys did it. But Nirvana was good.
My mom really liked the Nirvana Unplugged CD. She used to listen to it all the time.
That's crazy. Your mom was hip.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it was good. I just always thought it was cool and kind of crazy that they didn't do it like they did some of their bigger songs, like they did All Apologies, About a Girl. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they did a couple. But they did like a David Bowie song. They did like Meat Puppets. They did
Oh my
like
gosh.
a Ledbetter song. That one at the end. That's really crazy.
All these songs now, I forgot they sang like All Apologies and stuff. I loved that song.
That was a really good song.
Yeah.
I really like that song.
They almost broke into Sweet Home Alabama. It was like a joke though. Like
That's
when
right,
when they're warming up, he's like, bro, they're like making fun of Leonard Skinner.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember watching it too. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, it was
you can actually
huge.
buy it on. I think I don't know if I had it. I definitely had a Nirvana VHS.
DVD.
They had one came out, it was like Live Tonight, sold out. It was like concert footage and stuff like that.
So that was sort of a really, really, really brief synopsis of them from when they started to when they kind of were at their peak of their fame and all that kind of stuff. Now we get kind of into the like dark side, I guess. I mean, all the
with fame comes
yeah.
other issues. Yeah.
So in early 1994, Nirvana embarked on a European tour. Their final concert took place in Munich on March 1st. In Rome, on the morning of March 4th, Kurt Cobain's wife, Courtney Love, found Cobain unconscious in their hotel room and he was rushed to the hospital. Cobain had reacted to a combination of prescribed Rohypnol and alcohol. The rest of the tour was canceled. So we're going to talk about Kurt Cobain and his wife and how they met and all that stuff, but I just thought that was like...
Well, because I know like following Nirvana, so the whole Rome incident was kind of the beginning of the end.
Yes,
this
exactly.
is like, after this, it's...
Exactly.
It's kind of like, he's on a watch. This is like,
Not good.
No. Sadly, I think we obviously know how it all ended, but that Rome incident was kind of the tipping point for all those addictions and everything to...
Kind of going backwards a little bit again, like anything, there are differing accounts of exactly when and how Kurt Cobain first met Courtney Love. I don't know if you guys have heard of any. I mean, I don't know if it was a big story about how they met, whatever.
Yeah,
but
I'm not
here
sure.
are some of the whatevers. In 1993, the authorized biography of Nirvana cites a January 21st, 1989 gig in Portland where Nirvana played as support, while the Charles R. Cross 2001 Cobain biography has Love and Cobain meeting at the same nightclub venue in Portland, but a different Nirvana show. Oh my gosh.
So they're saying the same location, just different. Okay.
But who?
Different bands.
Why is it such a thing? But I guess because of the history and how it ended, all this stuff is interesting to people, right?
People, looking for any inconsistencies to be like, oh wait.
That's
Or
not
like-
right. That's not right.
Is that the problem? Where did it start? What happened there? Whatever. So Love made advances soon after they met, but Cobain was evasive. I feel like that's very on brand for him to be evasive.
He definitely, just reading about him, it
Yeah.
sounds like he was pretty introverted and stuff like that, and she seems very
Oh, yeah.
outgoing, so
Kurt played hard to get.
Yeah.
he doesn't seem like he was much of a ladies' man, I don't think.
No.
Early in their interactions, Cobain broke off dates and ignored Love's advances because he was unaware if he wanted a relationship. Cobain noted, "I was determined to be a bachelor for a few months, but I knew that I liked Courtney so much right away that it was a really hard struggle to stay away from her for so many months."
Oh, there you go, yeah.
Then there was another associate of both Cobain and Love who disputes the previous versions in the 2006 books, claiming that he himself introduced the couple on May 17th, 1991. I don't know what really matters at this point, but I guess if you're trying to be factual.
Well, I guess people are trying to... Was it something that they connected, or was it some sort of...
Did
Courtney Love
pursue him? Or,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because a lot of people want to try and
blame her and other things.
She was a money grubber. She wanted to get in there, but
she was looking for an easy road to fame.
That's what people want to paint her as. And so
they always say that, like, obviously at this point in time, we know Kurt Cobain had a very serious addiction to illegal substances, whatever they were.
Yeah.
Also, we know that she was addicted to illegal substances as well. And sometimes people like that just connect, because of that.
There's a magnetic attraction between addicts.
Exactly.
No, exactly. And just because you have money and whatever, there's still natural tendencies that, money doesn't mean anything at that point.
So on February 24th, 1992, they were married on Waikiki Beach in Hawaii. Love wore a satin and lace dress, and Cobain donned a Guatemalan purse and wore green pajamas because he had been too lazy to put on a tux. 8 people were in attendance at the ceremony, including Grohl.
I'm going to have to Google Guatemalan purse. I don't know what that is. Green pajamas, I understand, but I don't know what a Guatemalan purse is. Is that some sort of style, obviously a style or something?
I know what Steve's getting for Christmas.
I do have to say,
it's like a European carry-all.
I do have to say, I do love his honesty, being like, I was just too lazy to put on a tux. Like, you go. Like, I would wear pajamas everywhere if I could.
Yeah, he's probably like, I'm on vacation and I'm comfortable.
I'm happy in
whatever I'm wearing, it doesn't make the vows any better or worse.
Let's be real. We know they were expensive pajamas.
Probably, yeah.
They were satin.
Yeah.
Very Hugh Hefner-esque.
Yeah, right? The couple's daughter, Frances Bean Cobain, was born on August 18th, 1992. A sonogram was included in the artwork for Nirvana's single Lithium. Did you guys know that?
I didn't know that.
No, I've never,
In a 1992 Vanity Fair article, Love admitted to a drug binge with Cobain in the early weeks of her pregnancy. At the time, she claimed that Vanity Fair had misquoted her. Love later admitted to using heroin before knowing she was pregnant. The couple were asked by the press if Frances was addicted to drugs at birth. The Los Angeles County Department of Children's Services visited the Cobains days after Love gave birth and later took them to court, stating that their drug usage made them unfit parents.
Whoa.
Wow. Well, I don't know a whole lot about Frances, but I know she just married Tony Hawk's son, right?
Yeah, I think she did, actually.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy. But it seems like she's kind of come out of this
unscathed
and normal and healthy, which is nice to see.
Yeah.
I know there was some, there was some, reading in the papers and stuff over the years. I don't think her and Courtney were super close. I don't know if that's changed, but sometimes maybe distance is good for, depending on.
Yeah.
Just because you have parents, if they have situations and issues, it's sometimes better to have some distance there. But it seems like, she's married now and happy, so it's nice to see that.
Yeah, considering it was a very, all this stuff going on when she was a baby and then,
Well, and just, having that shadow of your father and everything that happened there, and then your mom, and, that's a lot of stuff to have to deal with.
To not choose to grow up in, right?
And being so little, I'm sure she probably has very few memories of her father and stuff like that. So it's like...
Now, from what I remember seeing in the press and all this stuff, at the time, it genuinely seemed like he was a very doting father. Like, he loved his daughter, that she was always with them. It wasn't this weird, I just see pictures of him holding her.
Yeah, it seemed... I think it was at the MTV Awards or something like that where she was there with them and stuff like that. Yeah, no, it seemed like they both
were caring parents
and around and involved and active, and it wasn't just kind of like, I have a kid now, and
they just
put her with the nannies or the babysitter. No,
they just had horrible addictions. That kind of
yeah.
So speaking of addictions, quick little synopsis. But Cobain used drugs heavily. Clearly, his first drug experience was with cannabis in 1980. At the age of 13, he regularly used the drug during adulthood. Cobain also had a period of consuming notable amounts of LSD and was prone to alcoholism and solvent abuse. Cobain first took heroin in 1986, administered to him by a dealer who had previously supplied him with oxycodone and aspirin. So clearly we all know that there was a history of drug abuse, so...
No, and it's just, you see how it escalates and stuff like that. And then also once you start to make money where you can afford to indulge these
and let's be real.
Things more, it's, and there's a lot of people who are willing to... Just give it to
people.
You, or
it just shows up. You walk in the room and it's just there, right?
Or that, or people want to hang out with you and be a part of whatever you have going on, so they'll gladly provide that stuff just for the access and things like that, right? So it's sort of a double-sided fame where, there's lots of not so great people out there that are just looking to hang out with famous people.
Get a buck.
Leeches.
Yeah, exactly.
Cobain used heroin sporadically for several years. By the end of 1990, his use had developed into an addiction. Cobain claimed that he was determined to get a habit as a way to self-medicate his stomach condition. It started with 3 days in a row of doing heroin, and I don't have a stomach pain. That was such a relief. That's sad.
I remember hearing that he had, I don't know what kind of stomach issues he had, but yeah, apparently he was like, if I feel like I'm a drug user because I feel so terrible all the time, I might as well become one.
Yeah.
Which is crazy logic, but yeah, I don't know, whatever stomach issue, I guess they were like, cripple him up, they were so bad.
Never underestimate the power. I mean, we have all, to varying levels of degree, have been in pain at some point in our life. And, lucky for us, the pain's gone away. But think of your worst pain and having that every single day. Yeah, you do anything.
Well, that's the thing, just to get rid of it. And that was kind of the thing. It's like, I feel like this, if this is going to fix it, then...
Great.
And that's...
this, like, the cure is worse than the disease.
Yeah. Yeah. Cobain's heroin use began to affect Nirvana's Nevermind tour. During a 1990 photo shoot, he fell asleep several times, having used heroin beforehand. Cobain told his biographer, "They're not going to be able to tell me to stop, so I really don't care. Obviously, to them, it was like practicing witchcraft or something. They didn't know anything about it, so they thought that at any second I was going to die." So, I mean, he just was kind of like, it is what it is. Like, just leave me alone.
Well, and I know, I don't know much about addiction and stuff like that, but they kind of say until the person using hits that sort of rock bottom, it doesn't matter what people say to them, they're not going to, if they don't think it's a problem and they're okay with it, then there's not much you can do to convince them otherwise.
No. Yeah.
And like I said, with having access to money and all this stuff where you're not living on the streets and destitute, it's, sometimes that bottom's really hard to hit.
Yeah, it's true.
The morning after the band's performance on Saturday Night Live in 1992, Cobain experienced his first near-death overdose after injecting heroin. Love resuscitated him.
I didn't know that. Courtney Love brought him back to life.
Apparently, yeah.
That's crazy.
I mean, and at this point, we have to imagine, just based on the stuff we've heard or know or read or researched, they were obviously both actively enabling each other in their addictions, and it was just sort of their relationship, right?
Well, most people, if they had to go through some of that to resuscitate someone, it'd kind of be like a line in the sand, like, this has to stop. And maybe it did a conversation happen, who knows?
Well, but I think, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to put situations into people's hands that I don't know about, but I'm assuming at this point in time she was probably using as well.
No, that's what I'm saying. But most, if healthy people would be like, no, this can't. You have a massive problem here. This has got to stop.
Yeah.
But
then it continues. Prior to a performance at the New Music Seminar in New York City on July 23rd, 1993, Cobain suffered another overdose. Rather than calling for an ambulance, Love injected Cobain with naloxone. I can't remember how to say that word.
Naloxone?
To resuscitate him. Cobain proceeded to perform with Nirvana, giving the public no indication that anything had happened. So it seems like it's just routine. It's like, okay, we just got to deal with this. Get up, we need to do.
We have that's the stuff they give out now. Like this is the stuff that you get, like the drugstores here.
Packs,
like you can get the stuff they give out everywhere for free if you want it. Yeah.
But I guess my point is just like, oh, another day. Let's just.
No, it's not like
he performed after.
Yeah.
It was like nothing ever happened.
No, like us not having any sort of, exposure to that world at all, thinking, oh my God, like that would be like this, I have to never do this again. This is terrifying. This is horrible. It's just like, it's just kind of par for the course. And,
I'm good.
Yep. I'm good. I'm back on my feet.
So we've kind of had a few examples of, the drug abuse and all that kind of stuff and near-death experiences, I would gather from what they're saying. Now we're kind of into the sort of like final month or months before, he unfortunately passed away.
Yeah.
And it's just so sad, like reading some of it. And I'm sure there's a lot more information than I even read, but it's just like, in hindsight, looking back, you can just like see it, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure
lots of people around him saw it.
Exactly. I mean, this stuff isn't happening super hidden. People had to know what's going on and stuff like that. So I'm sure some people. Yeah.
So following a tour stop in Munich, Germany on March 1st, 1994, Cobain was diagnosed with bronchitis and severe laryngitis. He flew to Rome the next day for medical treatment and was joined there by his wife Courtney on March 3rd. The next morning, Love awoke to find that Cobain had overdosed on a combination of champagne and Rohypnol. Cobain was rushed to the hospital and was unconscious for the rest of the day. After 5 days, Cobain was released and returned to Seattle. Love later said that incident was Cobain's first suicide attempt. Now, Was it? I don't know. I mean, she was the only one there.
Yeah, who knows? A really random fact on that. Oh, we're going to cover it later, so I will wait. I can see it on the sheet. But,
Coming up.
I don't spoil it, yeah.
On March 18, 1994, Love phoned the Seattle police informing them that Cobain was suicidal and had locked himself in a room with a gun. Police arrived and confiscated several guns and a bottle of pills from Cobain, who insisted that he was not suicidal and had locked himself in the room to hide from Love. So right here we have his wife, who is saying publicly, like, he's attempted suicide. This is the second time. She's calling the police, saying he's attempted suicide. And he's saying, no, I'm just trying to get away from her.
Yeah, and the police are just like...
Well, they don't know. It's a domestic,
what
right?
do we do here?
Yeah, this, you're okay.
So this kind of, like, leads into the whole, like, conspiracies around his death, right? Like, it's just, there's a lot.
Yeah.
Nobody really knows, obviously, what happens between the two of them, just the two of them, right?
No one knows that. Behind closed doors, private conversations, there's people that obviously will speculate and continue to speculate, but yet no one really knows what happened.
Mm-mm.
So Love arranged an intervention regarding Cobain's drug use on March 25th, 1994. The 10 people involved included musician friends, record company executives, and one of Cobain's closest friends, Dylan. Cobain reacted with anger, insulting and heaping scorn on the participants, and locked himself in the upstairs bathroom. However, by the end of the day, Cobain agreed to undergo a detox program, and he entered a residential facility in Los Angeles for a few days on March 30th, 1994. This just makes me even sadder because it's like, whether he was ready or not, but he was like kind of at least taking those first steps, right? Like,
making some attempts to get on the right track.
And obviously, them performing an intervention, obviously it's like, okay, we need to
all the people
help
were like,
him here and stuff like that. And obviously, I think most addicts, I remember that show Intervention.
They're not like, okay,
most of them don't go in interventions being like, some do, but most are like, you guys are crazy, I don't need this. And then eventually sort of come to, okay, yes, I need some help here.
I was just thinking of the auto-tune intervention, sorry.
Yeah. That's right, the guy crying.
Yeah, the guy crying.
So the following night, Cobain left the facility and flew to Seattle. So he only lasted a night. But on the flight, he sat near Duff McKagan of Guns N' Roses. Despite Cobain's animosity towards Guns N' Roses, Cobain seemed happy to see McKagan. McKagan later said that he knew from all of my instincts that something was wrong. Most of Cobain's friends and family were unaware of his whereabouts. On April 7th, amid rumors of Nirvana breaking up, the band pulled out of the 1994 Lollapalooza festival.
That's what I was getting. We had the wrong flight, but I remember hearing that him and Duff McKagan shared a flight home. Mm-hmm. Which is, because,
they didn't like each other.
Well, the two
There's a rivalry there.
Did not get along. Yeah, they had some...
Isn't
they
that
were both
weird?
The exact opposite of each other and sort of...
But isn't that a weird universal thing? I don't know. That's weird. The one person that you kind of,
well, that's because they were like, if you watch the Don't Cry video for Guns N' Roses, Axl Rose has a Nirvana hat in it because he was actually a huge Nirvana fan and wanted them to open for him on the Use the Illusion tour.
That would have been a weird...
But they didn't want, so it ended up Soundgarden did it. But yeah, so like they were, I don't know if they all were, but definitely Axl Rose was like a big Nirvana fan.
That's so weird.
Yeah. But I guess Kurt didn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's what probably what sort of led to some of that, because they were kind of, Nirvana was sort of the everything, Guns N' Roses sort of represented everything Nirvana didn't want to be, right?
Yeah, they're a big band with lots of guitars, big solos.
Big money. And, some of their lyrics about women and stuff like that, they weren't too cool with either, and stuff like that. So, yeah, it was kind of their, but it's funny that, I know, because, Duff McKagan, he was like Guns N' Roses had plenty of addiction issues too, so probably could relate to Kurt a lot. But
it's just so weird, like that's the one person he was on a flight with.
Yeah, no, it's funny how that kind of happens,
crazy. It's weird. It's sad. I don't know. It's a weird, sad thing.
Yeah.
So now we get to the really sad stuff.
All right.
I know. So on April 8th, Cobain's body was discovered in the greenhouse above the garage at his Lake Washington house by an electric employee, Gary T. Smith, who arrived that morning to install security lighting. Smith initially thought Cobain was asleep until he saw blood coming out of Cobain's ear. He also found a suicide note with a pen stuck through it inside a flower pot. So that was like, before we get into all the details, like, do you guys remember, because remember back then there was no Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever to post about it. Like, you just heard about it on the news. Like, that was it. Like,
Yeah.
do you guys remember? I was at school and somebody at school had seen it and started telling everybody at school. So good old word of mouth.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was at school. I remember talking about I definitely remember talking about the hallways over that, and I remember seeing it on, it must have been in Much Music or something like that. But I don't remember if I heard it on Much Music first, but definitely remember it happening and like it being a huge thing. And like,
it was huge. What about you?
Same thing. I remember hearing it like at school and then like went home and like saw it on the news.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a big thing. Like, because there was, like, I just remember my school, there was kids in my school who, like, literally Nirvana was, like, their life at the time. They loved them, they dressed like them, they listened to them all the time. Yeah. And it was, like, they were really sad.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, rightfully so, but I'm just saying, like, it was just sort of my first experience of, like, a celebrity dying that had such a huge impact.
And in such a sad, tragic way, too. Like, you know, like that on top of everything else. Like, because he was, like, I mean, that's what we sort of talked about earlier, but a lot of people said he was sort of like,
the voice of a generation.
Whether he wanted to be or not, he was the voice of a generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to go out like he did is just sad. It's such a waste.
It is very sad.
And such a loss. But yeah, so a lot of people, that's because it's so, you know, they were still really early into their career. Like, it was only a couple of years.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like they were just kind of getting started and then gone.
A 20-gauge shotgun purchased for Cobain by his friend was found on Cobain's chest. So that was the first indication of what had happened. Cobain did not want the gun purchased in his name because he thought the police might seize it for his own protection. The police had taken away his guns twice in the previous 10 months.
The fact that the cops are coming to take guns and stuff like that?
They'd obviously been called a few times for... So the King County medical examiner noted puncture wounds on the inside of both the right and left elbows. The shotgun was not checked for fingerprints until May 6, 1994.
That's a little suspicious.
Yeah,
like, you think they would check that right away, right? Like,
see
if there's anyone else's fingerprints on there, make sure it's Kurt's.
Unless because they thought it was obvious.
Unless it was so obvious that they're like...
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no need to do that.
This is
not a homicide.
Yeah.
I
don't know how they determined that, but yeah.
The shotgun was... Okay. The Seattle police report states that the shotgun was inverted on Cobain's chest with his left hand wrapped around the barrel. Okay. On April 14th, it was reported that Cobain was high on heroin when he pulled the trigger. The paper reported that the toxicological test determined that the level of morphine in Cobain's bloodstream was 1.52 milligrams per liter and that there was evidence of Valium in his blood. The report continued a quote which stated that Cobain's heroin level was at a high concentration by any account, but that the strength of the dose would depend on many factors, including how habituated Cobain was to the drug.
So basically saying there's a lot in there, but if you're a heavy user of drugs, then it may not affect you as much as it might someone who's...
It might have not been a lethal dose, basically.
Based on your usage, it's,
Yeah. So Cobain's body had been there for days. The coroner's report estimated he died on April 5th, 1994 at the age of 27.
Another one goes to the curse of 27.
That's right, the 27 Club,
Yeah.
What's that?
There's a bunch of musicians that died at the age of 27.
Yeah, like I think Jimi Hendrix, Jim Morrison, Janis Joplin. I'm sure there's other ones for sure.
Was it all drugs?
Some of it.
Yeah, most of them
overdoses. Yeah.
It's so sad.
Yeah, 27, like...
Oh my gosh, think of when you were 27. Like, that's so sad.
You're just really getting into, like, you know, your life at that point.
Yeah, like you're finally, you're out of work, school, you're kind of into the adulthood.
Yeah.
Such a waste.
So that's sort of obviously the broad overview of everything leading to his death, which to this day, I'm pretty sure that people could debate whether it was suicide or not.
There's documentaries on it. So I think it's, there's lots because of stuff like we said about like the fingerprints, this and that, the way the gun was or wasn't, the amount of drugs in the system. There's all sorts of theories, thoughts, conspiracies about what happened in that room.
Inconsistencies, like it's crazy.
10 years later, the police developed 4 rolls of film that had not been left in an evidence vault. No reason was provided why the rolls of film were not developed earlier.
That's weird.
That's crazy, right?
But I mean, it's so random.
I guess they just assumed, based on what they saw, like it was open and shut, right? There was no reason to investigate further.
That's what I would take it as, that
based on, obviously, there was past, situations with police. There was a history there.
The situation in Rome, I guess, was also like, he finished off the job.
He's attempted this before. Like you said, he had a gun bought under someone else's name because the police have taken his weapons before.
Yeah.
So,
like, I don't know police protocol. Like, I just don't know. The due diligence is supposed to be there. Like, should they have taken fingerprints? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. That's exactly. I'm not sure, but I'm assuming it must be they assumed it was just a open and shut case.
They saw the scene and were like, oh, this is what happened.
We know what happened here. Yeah.
So I did jump ahead a tiny bit. I just wanted to read this little blurb about his public memorial service because I don't know. I don't know much about these people, but on April 10th, 1994, a public memorial service was held at Seattle Center where a recording of Courtney Love reading Cobain's suicide note was played. Near the end of the vigil, Love arrived and distributed some of his clothing to fans who remained. In the following days, Love consoled and mourned with fans who came to her house.
I remember listening to that. I remember read the...
Is that weird? I
mean, she read the note, yeah.
Yeah, and she was like... Because I remember she was saying... He had a line... I think you remember he quoted like a Neil Young line about it's better to burn out than fade away. And she's like, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
Don't believe this. This is
she
garbage.
was angry, clearly. She was angry. I mean, she's sad. She's mourning the death of her husband, the father of her child. She's their own battles. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
It was a lot, I imagine.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's a lot to go through because she's a single mom, like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
A widow.
And not to mention the fact, I don't know if it started that early on, but I mean, she was very much clouded with doubts of whether her involvement or not in his death. Whether inadvertently or directly or whatever.
That's
there
some
was
of the conspiracy
speculation.
theories about,
she hired somebody.
There's people have come out and said they was offered money to do this and stuff. So there's all sorts of...
There's a lot going on there.
A
lot.
Yeah.
But Cobain's death became a topic of public fascination and debate. His artistic endeavors and struggles with addiction, illness, and depression, as well as the circumstances of his death, have become a frequent topic of controversy. According to a spokesperson for the Seattle Police Department, the department receives at least one weekly request to reopen the investigation, resulting in the maintenance of the basic incident report on file.
It's crazy. 30 years later, people still want to know.
Open it up.
Yeah.
What
happened?
Just aren't convinced. Like, I mean, I think there was a few things that I read that I didn't include here, but like, there was people that were close to him that was like, yeah, he was messed up and he had his issues, but he never would have done this.
Yeah.
But you never know, right? Like, you don't know.
And if this guy's your hero, like if you're a fan and he's your hero, you don't want to believe he did this, right?
But that's also part of it too. You want to look for who...
Yeah.
I want to blame someone, and I sometimes feel like people look at like Courtney Love, like Yoko Ono.
Yeah.
She broke up the Beatles. She broke up Nirvana. It's her fault.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to blame someone. I want to blame her.
Yeah.
Now, I have a question. I have a question. Eric, I'll ask you this question. So I feel like you may know the answer. I mean, I know you don't know the answer, but just based on your own whatever. So Kurt Cobain passes away. Courtney Love, I don't remember if during Nirvana or it was after Nirvana. She had her own musical endeavors. She had her band.
Cole.
She had her
Cole
group.
was huge.
Cole.
Yeah.
But that's my question. Did she become super huge after he had died, or was she already like there?
Well, she was already like a big celebrity.
Okay.
Because of like the relationship, right?
Right.
So
but aside from that,
his death didn't like make her popular.
No.
I don't know.
But did it make her music career more popular?
I don't know. I mean, there's like controversy around that too, right? Because some people think like that there's a whole album that came out after he had passed that they thought he heavily influenced or wrote a lot of.
Well, their big album, people kind of thought,
was Celebrity Skin? Was that it?
I think it was even their first one, Live For This or whatever, their big breakout one.
Yeah.
People were like,
this sounds very Nirvana-esque.
Yeah.
But
so
I mean,
there's all that controversy, again, more conspiracy theories. That,
but I mean, if they were together and she did that album, like, why wouldn't he potentially influence her? Right? Like, who knows?
No, totally. I mean, who knows? But he's not, as far as I know, he was never credited with anything on it. But so people just, again, want to say she didn't do this. It was him.
Yeah. I mean, like, the weird thing is, like, that aside, she was talented.
Yeah, I mean,
she's a talented lead singer. She was in a movie too. She was really good in it. What was that?
People versus Larry Flint.
Yeah, exactly. She was good in that movie. Like, she's a talented performer and actress. So like, if she had no talent,
right,
she wouldn't have made it as far as she did.
Right, and she was also in that movie. Was she in that movie with Woody Harrelson?
Yeah, The People versus
Oh, is that
Flint.
that movie?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But I remember her being in movies and stuff like that. Like she was whatever. So I was just curious, like, because again, I don't know. So the whole
Yeah, no, she was definitely talented in her own right.
And that's where her, and if you want to make the comparisons to Yoko, Yoko not so talented when it comes to performing.
Definitely a different style.
Yeah, go watch Yoko Ono performing with John Lennon and Chuck Berry. It's a good laugh.
Yeah.
So really quickly, to sort of sum it up at the end, I did mention quickly about how they had developed 4 rolls of film that had been left in the evidence vault, yada, yada, yada. But I'm just reading this here. They were instructed to look at the film because it's a 20 years later and it's a high media case. It says, just reading my notes, the death remains a suicide and that the images would not be released publicly. The photos in question were later released one by one weeks before the 20th anniversary of Cobain's death. One photo shows Cobain's arm still wearing the hospital bracelet from the drug rehab facility he had left just a few days prior to returning to Seattle. Another photo shows Cobain's foot resting next to a bag of shotgun shells, one of which was used in his death. I think, there's just always I know there's documentaries, there's always just going to be questions.
No, and I think a lot of it is I think a lot of people don't want to believe that.
That's the thing.
A young guy at that age with that success,
everything going for them, essentially.
Would do that. Yeah.
It's easier to think there's a boogeyman out there, whether it's Courtney Love or some hitman or whatever, but it's easier to think that than
sometimes,
this guy was
especially because how it happened too, like with a shotgun, like if it was a drug overdose, I think there'd be less questions.
Yeah.
They'd be like, oh, you know what, this was a close call a bunch of times, and this actually happened.
Yeah.
But the fact that there was a shotgun and obviously, it was
very deliberate.
And
yeah. I mean, we could probably, we could probably do a whole episode just on
the details of all that stuff.
Because there's a whole lot of conspiracies there. There's documentaries about
I would love to deep dive into that. Maybe watch some of the movies and sort of. I love that kind of stuff. You like true crime stuff.
I've watched a few documentaries. There's a lot of rabbit holes to go down there. So that could be like a whole other topic just to talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's so much, and I learned so much just by this few pages that I read.
Yeah.
The information you guys told me, but I think the overwhelming sentiment is just. Either way, it's has an extra layer of sadness that he died the way he did by his own hands. What the facts are, his own hands, makes it even sadder. But just the fact that, somebody so young and talented who had so much, he just had a baby.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. It's such a waste.
It's sad, and people, those demons are just too strong, and they can't.
No, and that's and
But I just want to end, unless you guys have anything else you want to add to this sort of topic or things that you've heard or anything like that?
No, go for it. What are you saying?
Go for it,
I just wanted to end this episode with two quotes that I found from one was his Dave Grohl, and one was his foster father, and I just thought it just summed it up. Very sad, but so Dave Grohl believed that he knew Cobain would die at an early age, saying that sometimes you just can't save someone from themselves. And in some ways, you kind of prepare yourself emotionally for that to be a reality. That's sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's you just know, I know he's in trouble. I know it's not going to end well.
Well, I think that's like we were sort of saying, people around him knew that he was not in a good space.
Bit of trivia, that Foo Fighters song, My Hero, that was Dave Grohl's song for Kurt Cobain.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's so sad.
Yeah, no,
sad.
It's,
And then Dave Reed, who for a short time had been Cobain's foster father, said that he had the desperation, not the courage to be himself. Once you do that, you can't go wrong because you can't make any mistakes when people love you for being yourself. But for Kurt, it didn't matter that other people loved him. He simply didn't love himself enough. I think that just sort of sums it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Just,
It's sad. It's just really sad.
He was a sad guy, and it's a sad end.
Just sad circumstances. Yeah, it's just everything, and it's just. I just feel like I kind of want to cry. It's sad.
It is. It's just it's really a sad, tragic, and again, it's just a real waste that.
And it was a very memorable moment in our time growing up. The whole everything from their inception to his death. It was just.
Well, it's just a testament to what impact he had on culture. Because 30 years later, we're still talking about him, right?
Yeah.
Still talking about the band, the music, the man, and how he went. People are still talking about all this stuff.
Not only talking about it, but at least for me, feeling the emotions of it. I have no connection to these guys at all. I wasn't even a super fan, but it's just so sad on a human level. It's just so sad and so just sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally, because it just shows you can have everything in the world, really.
Yeah,
And
but if you don't love
still,
yourself.
if you're not happy, you're not,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay, but before we wrap up this episode, first we just want to say thank you to everybody who's tuned in. We also want to say to anybody out there who's listening or watching and is struggling with any addiction or any of these issues, please reach out to somebody. You know, there's phone numbers. We can even put a phone number up here for you guys. Reach out, get some help. There are people. You are worth it. I'm going to get teary-eyed.
You're worth it. You're not alone.
Yes.
There's someone there to help you.
There's help out there.
Absolutely. But with that being said, we thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next one.
Take care,
guys.
everybody.
Bye.